just to connect to what Mada said, yes, we should limit our paid user acquisition and be more focused on organic and content and whatsoever. That's very true, and I totally agree. Unfortunately and fortunately, actually, sometimes we have a lot of budget to spend and we have different possibilities, so we need to find ways on how to get downloads for our applications. Before to start with the third session, I would like to introduce myself just briefly. My name is Lorenzo. I'm from Italy, and I'm currently head of marketing for Free2Move. Free2Move is an app, and for the people who don't know this app, it's an aggregator for shared mobility services. Basically, you can find all the car sharing, scooter sharing, but also bikes, public transport, and also taxi and ride-hailing services in your city. So in this session, as I said before, we're going to talk about some ways to get downloads for seasoned apps, so after the app has been launched, and we're going to look especially beyond the duopoly Facebook and Google, because as we have seen at the beginning with Olga, Facebook and Google are the easiest way to start advertising an application, a mobile app. Why? Because they have an easy setup, very easy setup. The audience is super big. The targeting options are actually fantastic. As Mada was saying, you can target very specifically. And at the beginning, it's quite cheap. So whenever you start with a new app, you have a new brand app, and you have done all your organic and free actions, and you have some budget to spend, start with these two platforms, invest some money, get some data, and start optimizing. Of course, the duopoly, sooner or later, will get a bit inefficient. Why? Because there is a very high competition. As we have seen at the beginning, there are millions of apps in the stores, and most of advertisers rely on these two channels for getting downloads for their application. So let's suppose in the case of niche apps or apps that are available only in specific geographic areas, or when you have, again, mature apps and big budget to scale rapidly, unfortunately, the duopoly is not always so efficient. We had exactly this case at Free2Move, because our app is targeting grown-up people, let's say people from 23 to 45, people who can drive a car, and people who are using or willing to use car sharing, and that they're living in areas where car sharing and scooter sharing is available. So you can imagine that with these limitations that we have, it's quite easy to reach saturation of the audience and therefore inefficiency. So how did we try to solve this problem? We had done all the organic actions, we had done all the community things, but we needed to spend budget and to scale rapidly. We decided to go omni-channel, this approach that involves the fact that you need to test continuously new channels, and you need to test all the channels. That can actually have many advantages. I would just talk about three advantages that are the control of the budget, because when you rely only on the duopoly or just on Facebook or just on Google, you basically take your budget, you give it to these two platforms, and then you don't have to do a lot of things except for searching new targeting options or changing the banners. So splitting your budget to different platforms, you can actually take control back your budget and start optimizing according to the performances. But also for marketers, it's very important to be creative, and having different channels actually can increase the creativity, because you can test different messages and different approaches. But the important thing when you go omni-channel, first of all, in my opinion, is that you shouldn't say that it's not working for your specific business. You shouldn't do some assumptions, and I'll make you, in this case, the example of Free2Move. When we were in the position of finding new channels, we didn't want to test a Snapchat. Why? Because Snapchat is a platform that we assume, and it's actually true, that is full of teenagers. So the audience is very young, the audience is very fresh, and you would assume that you cannot find people with driver license or people who are willing to spend money for car sharing services. But at the end, we found ourselves in the in the need of testing. So we started with Italy, we then tried Germany, and at the end, in this country, it didn't work, but at the end in France worked very well. At the end in France, we managed to find an audience that was actually grown up, that had money to spend, that had driver license, and for a certain period of time, we were spending more on Snapchat than on Facebook for France. So that's something that if we didn't test, we would never have discovered. So what are these channels that you can test? Basically, there are no limitations, as I said before, but I'm going to show you now some of the channels that we have tested at Free2Move, both offline and online, and some of the channels that I've tested in the past with previous applications. I want actually to start from Snapchat because we already mentioned it. And this is one of those channels that too often I hear from advertisers and from myself too, actually, that it's not working without even trying. And unfortunately, that's not always true, as you have seen with Free2Move, because we don't consider that Snapchat has a huge audience and a young audience. And the fact that this audience is so huge, basically allows the CPI to be low. And when the CPIs are low, you can get more downloads. And even if the people are younger and have less money, maybe they will convert in the long run, and they will create value for your business. So it's a platform that can be tested for App Store campaigns. They are still developing the platform. It's not so advanced in terms of tracking, in terms of targeting. But still, if you have budget, it's worth a test, because it's full of young people that love authentic content, that love to be engaged with games. So you can really find your sweet spot. Another platform, another channel that can be compared to Snapchat is actually Twitter, not because of the characteristic of the platform, but for the perception, because also for Twitter, many times we hear it doesn't work before even testing. And actually, it might be true because the audience is quite smaller. That means that we have higher CPIs. But at the same time, we should consider that on Twitter, there are plenty of grown-up people. So the audience is older and they are professional. That means they have more money to spend. And then, even if you pay a higher CPI, you can have actually a higher LTV in the long run. It's good in US, of course, it's the biggest audience, but also in France and Spain. For Europe, you can find really some good people to target. A suggestion that I can give is that to not use the same creative that you're using on Facebook for Twitter, and the same was also for Snapchat before, because each platform has its own characteristic. For example, on Facebook, when you upload a banner, you have the 20% text limitation, and that's a rule that is not working, that it's not present on Twitter. So you could actually create a banner that it's all text on Twitter because it's working better. So it's good to take these things in consideration, try to diversify the creatives and the messages. If we want to stay then in the social media ecosystem, we can mention influencer marketing. So this is actually one of my favorite channels, and it has become during the past years a must-have in the performance marketing mix. It's very authentic, in my opinion, if it's well done, of course. And I like it because it gives the advertisers really unlimited opportunities in terms of platform, in terms of messages. So you find influencers everywhere. You find the influencer on Snapchat, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, also on LinkedIn and on YouTube with videos. So it really gives the advertiser many opportunities. Nice thing about the influencer marketing is that it works very, very well with promo codes. We made a campaign in Washington DC, and we were giving away 20 minutes car sharing for free to the followers of some Instagrammers. And these guys, the followers, were really loving this fact that they were given something exclusive, something for them. And the conversion rate was much higher than other normal campaigns. A question that is around always the influencer marketing campaign is that we don't know, we are not sure if we should focus in one big influencer or multiple small influencers? This is actually a good question. For my experience and for my opinion, I like to focus more on micro influencers, so the small ones, because for many reasons. First of all, because you have a different way to communicate to them. They are less divas, and they are not so strict in the content. You can impose your content. But also because you can have some performance deals, so you can pay per install or per action. While if you talk to a big influencer, you will have to pay the agency, and it's going to be much more expensive. In terms of tracking, it's kind of difficult. It can be tricky to track influencer marketing, but it's not impossible. So you can use a tracking link that is specific for each of the influencer, and in this way you will see where the installs, where the downloads are coming from. But also, if you are using promo codes, you can count the promo codes or that are redeems, or you can see if there is an organic uplift, because maybe the followers of the influencer have seen the post on Instagram, and then they didn't click on the tracking link, but they went direct to App Store. So if you combine these three things, you can be able to track the campaigns. Now, to talk about what actually Mada and what Olga said about the community and about content marketing, I totally agree with them. Content marketing is something that can be super powerful. And recently, we started seeing also paid content marketing. So we create content and then we distribute it to the audience through different platforms like Outbrain, Taboola, or Plista. I think this way of acquiring users is very powerful because it's less pushy, it's more educational, and actually you give a useful content to your audience that it can be helpful for them in the moment of need. I will make you the example of a campaign that we have run last December before Christmas in Berlin. So Berlin is a city full of expats. So during Christmas time, all the people go home and they go to the airport, and they go to the airport with the car sharing services or with the bus, but a lot of people use car sharing services. So we created an article in our blog where we were telling the people all the informations that they were searching for to go to the airport, either with the public transport, but also with car sharing. So all the fees, all the parking spot, all these kind of things that were useful. And at the end of the article, we were saying, by the way, if you're going with car sharing, you know that you can find all the services in Free2Move. If you want, download the app. So as you can see, less pushy, more useful. And this way actually is good because you reach people that are avoiding traditional advertising that you've seen before on Snapchat or Facebook or Google. You reach people that don't like usually advertising. Of course, for paid content marketing, there is the landing page where the content stands. That it's a step in between the ad and the App Store, and this is a fact that you might think can break or decrease your conversion rate. It's totally fine, but still, if the user after clicking the ad, they arrive on the page where the content is, and then they decide to go to the App Store and download the app, that's a big proof of commitment toward your product. So these kind of users are the users that you really want, and they will bring you value for your product. So far, we have seen actually activities that we can do in-house. But there are also some other activities that you can do with external agencies or external companies. One of these is of course programmatic. Probably all of us have heard about programmatic during the past 2 or 3 years. So it's the promise since actually quite a long time, because programmatic campaigns should give us transparency, should give us brand safety, should give us clean traffic, because they're all based on artificial intelligence and automatization. So really, at least me as a mobile marketer, I really count on programmatic. The fact is that for the time being, running programmatic campaign is not easy for all the companies, because the learning phase is still long. It's still from 3 to 6 weeks, and it's actually expensive. So not all the companies actually have the opportunity to spend this kind of budget for learning phase. If you have some budget, I would try to test it. We did it. Didn't work very well, but at least we learned something. On the same level, actually on a level a bit lower, if you want, there are the networks, the affiliate and the video ad networks. The first thing that I say when I talk about the networks is be careful, because of course, as you might know, there is these big problems around affiliates that is called fraud, and all of us is aware of this. Fortunately, also the networks lately are more aware and more transparent about this problem of the fraud, and they're trying to fight it. So be careful of what you're buying. Of course, out there are very good sources of traffic. You just need to find them. How do you find them? You ask around, you ask for a suggestion, and you have an open conversation with this company, explaining your goals, your benchmarks, and your KPIs. If they promise you better results than Facebook or better results than organic, there is something wrong, just for experience. So after you have found the company you want to work with, you can share your data with them and you start optimizing together, because you are the ones that actually know better the data, so you can tell them which are the sources that are working better and which are the sources that they need to stop. At the end, if you have budget and you need to scale, this is a good way to do that. Of course, the quality is a bit lower, but still it can give you really, it can give you really a lot of volume. Now, before to arrive at the conclusions, I think that so far we have been talking only about online advertising. I think that also for mobile applications, there are offline opportunities. And I'm talking in this case about the OH activities, the out-of-home campaigns that, of course, during the past years, they decreased the budget because companies have been switching the budget to digital campaigns. But now I've seen a lot of mobile companies actually that are trying again. Why? Because at the end, a good offline campaign is very good for brand awareness, but it's also very good for the conversion rate of digital campaigns. It happened to me a few weeks ago that I saw that I seen a banner at the station, a billboard at the station, and then I opened my Facebook after 2 minutes and I seen the same banner on Facebook, and then I clicked on the banner because I recognized that banner that was on the billboard. And that's actually something that you can do very easily, because if you put some billboards in a specific station, then on Facebook you can select a specific geo-targeting location, and then you can show the same banner. You will see that the conversion rate might be quite higher. An important thing to mention for the offline and OH activities is that we shouldn't be so stuck with the idea of immediate results. I know that we love performance marketing, we love to see immediate results, but as I said before, a good offline campaign might have good results for the next 5, 6, and 7 months. So just try to see the long picture. Another way that not so many advertisers consider to get downloads for their application, it's actually the cooperations. How do you do the cooperations? Usually it's a free exchange of services, and it's with businesses or companies that are complementary to your business. I'll make an example of one of the cooperation we have done during the past months, and it's with this company called Wazzo in Italy. Basically, they offer a service where you can discover, and you can book tickets for events in Rome. So it's quite simple, the association with a service, transportation service. So you buy the ticket for the concert, let's say, take a scooter in Free2Move to go to the concert. And that's something that we did also the other way around. So are you in the town tonight? Are you using car sharing? You've just arrived in town using car sharing? There are these kind of events. It was free. We got a bunch of installs. They got a bunch of installs. And it was just an implementation. Now, those were just few of the way of acquiring users that we tried in the past couple of years. We tried also Apple Search, we tried podcast, Reddit, also LinkedIn and brainstorm campaigns. But unfortunately, tonight I knew that there wasn't time to talk about them all, so I just selected a few ones. I think before to close, it's good to see also what do you need for going omnichannel and testing channels. So first of all, in my opinion, the most important thing is to have a good BI team and a way to visualize the data, because when you're running many channels, data is crucial for the analysis. It's crucial for the optimization, because going omni-channel when you have a lot of budget, it doesn't mean just allocating 50% to Facebook, 20 to Google, 10 to Twitter, 10 to Snapchat, and whatsoever. It actually means to analyze all the different cohorts. It means to analyze the different geolocation, the different age group, the different genders, the different devices. And for each of these cohorts, you need to see which one is the channel that is performing better, and then start moving all the budgets accordingly to the results. So first of all, data, because you cannot run campaigns in 10 channels at the same time if you don't have a good data structure. Then of course you need the user acquisition team that you might think need to be huge. It doesn't need to be huge. It needs to be specialized, let's say. Of course, channel manager that can manage campaigns on Facebook, Google, Twitter, whatsoever. But then if you want to run campaigns like operation or influencer marketing campaigns in a big scale, you need people that are dedicated to this kind of campaign. Another important thing, of course, it's the process. So you can just start and run your test without some specific process. You need to do your hypothesis. You need to define in advance what you're trying to test, and you need to define what you want to prove, for how long you want to run the test, how much you want to spend. So make your hypothesis, build the test, measure, and learn, and then repeat it. But for how long this test should run and how much? Well, there is not a specific rule. I can share what at Free2Move we are doing. So for example, for social native channels like Twitter or Snapchat, Pinterest, we spend up to 4K for about 2 weeks. So we try to reach at least the impressions useful for the algorithm to optimize the campaigns. And then we take decisions if to continue or if to change. Important thing when you're running tests and you start new campaigns on new channels, don't give up after 1 day, because if you give up after 1 day because you spent $200 and you didn't get it installed, I think the $200 were really wasted. It's better to change approach, because maybe you didn't use the right creative or you didn't use the right targeting. So don't really give up. For networks, we spend from 5 to 10K, and for programmatic, it's up to 20K. And for, as I said before, 4 to 6 weeks of testing. Of course, for networks and programmatic, it doesn't mean that you have to spend it all. Usually, you can have deals that you can stop the campaigns whenever you want. In terms of metric, well, this is depending really on the phase of the business that you are. Usually, advertisers, when the app is not brand new, when they are in a seasonal phase, they don't look at the CPI. They look at the CPI if they are at the beginning and they want to get volume. So, as I say, don't be stuck with the CPI. Rather, try to understand what is the event that you want to measure, and try to understand all the steps in the funnel to arrive until this event. Of course, you can try to optimize all these little steps before the event desired arrives. And of course, all the cohorts need time to develop, right? Because it's not that I download the app today and I play immediately or I purchase immediately. So the people need time to convert and to do the actions. And actually you can help all this kind of conversion with the CRM activities. In conclusion, what I want to leave you today is that if you want to survive this big competition when you have such big number of applications and such big number of advertisers and big brands that are spending money at the same time that you are, I think that it's really important to go omnichannel and test alternative ways beyond Facebook and Google. And it's important to test these kind of things without making assumptions that this channel is not working, without even trying, as we have seen for Free2Move and Snapchat. Because at the end, each platform has really specific characteristics and specific audiences. All the people that are using the different platforms are different from each other. So my suggestion is really to not get tired to test and not get tired to search the omnichannel balance. And that was it.
We have some questions. So when certain channels deliver a better CPI, when you target more like granularly, like for example, city level, how do you scale that channel without saturating the market?
So I think this is done, right? Yeah. That was actually the problem we had at Free2Move, because it's kind of impossible not to saturate the audience when the targeting is very, very small. So Free2Move is an app that is available not only in specific cities, sometimes it's available only in specific districts of a city, right? When we started the campaigns on Facebook, it was easy because at the beginning, as I said, it's quite cheap. It's quite cheap to acquire downloads, and there was no problem. But then after a couple of weeks, it started getting saturated and expensive. And the way to fight this problem is to try different channels. So instead of, if you have a budget of 1,000, instead of giving 1,000 budget to Facebook, you give 500 to Facebook, 100 to Google, 50 to Twitter, 30 to Snapchat, 20 to other channels. Or you try offline campaigns. You can try a while postering campaign in the specific area where you want to get downloads. So that's what I was meaning when I say that we need to try different opportunities, and that's the same for direct channel, not focus only in one, but trying a global approach.
Okay, and what about YouTube? So people are asking in the chat.
Well, YouTube was a great way to acquire user for the app before universal ad campaigns. So what I mentioned at the beginning is that basically now on Google you have no control of your campaigns. And I know there are some tricks on YouTube, so you can run mobile web campaigns putting the tracker from the MMP, but still you are not free as you were before. I think, yes, of course, it was a great way, but they are taking the control of the campaigns away from us, and I'm afraid that Facebook will do the same.
Okay, and I guess the last question that we'll take into an answer today. Yeah, how do you reach influencers effectively? Doing it manually takes a lot of time. Is there some like aggregators or tools that you used?
Yes, there are a lot of companies that actually aggregate the influencers. And I agree with Emir, it takes a lot of time to contact all the different influencers. That's why I say that if there is the opportunity, it's better to have a dedicated person. We were doing that at Zalando with the YouTubers, and at Lavu with all the other influencers, but not always is possible, right? To have a dedicated person. So my suggestion is to find one of the companies that are around. Actually, I had a call just last week with one company from France. I don't really remember the name, but it was a nice concept because they were aggregating micro influencers, so all the small guys. But there are millions of different models. So there are these guys that you can choose. So you choose the influencer according to your needs. There are other platforms that actually are the opposite. You explain the need to the platform, and then they associate the influencer to your needs. It's just a research that needs to be done. I have some names of good agencies for influencers. I can share it later. Now I don't have it here in my mind.
Okay, and while we were speaking, we got one more question. How did you scale omnichannel app user acquisition engagement? Is there a single platform you tried or used each channel independently?
It's a good question. It's the second option for us. So we use the different channels. We didn't use a platform that aggregates all the campaigns, also because I believe that there are not so many platforms that allow to use all of the channels. So it wouldn't make sense, in my opinion, to have one platform for Facebook, Google, and Twitter, for example, and then you need to use separately the other one. So again, that's just my opinion. I know tons of advertisers that use platforms for managing Facebook and Twitter and Google. I've always worked with the platform themselves.